$187. That is what Columbia University says is the all-in cost for a school year. Now, the Ivy League school is turning to hybrid learning for the next week as anti-Semitism continues across campus. So how about this question? If you can't provide a full and safe college experience, should you charge for one? Or how about this? Coming today from the New York City mayor.
Why is everybody's tent the same? Was there a fire sale on those tents? There's some organizing going on. There's a well-concerted organizing effort. And what's the goal of that organizing?
In moments, we will hear from both a Democratic and a Republican lawmaker, one from New York, one who's Jewish, to ask what they think needs to happen next, as both the White House and Donald Trump are now weighing in. Come on in, I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. All right, come on in. Here we go. Hanging out with us today, Mick Mulvaney, former Trump White House Chief of Staff, NewsNation contributor as well. Nan Hayworth, the former Republican Congresswoman from the state of New York. Scott Bolden, former D.C. Democratic Party chairman, NewsNation contributor also. And Kurt Bardella is a Democratic strategist and NewsNation contributor. Hello to you all. Nice to have you in. Sure. We pulled you out of New York in a time where there's a little bit of news going on in your hometown.
Glad to be here. It's so much calmer in D.C.
Is it? Okay.
For now
at least. $89,587, Mick. That's what it costs to go to Columbia if you pay the full thing. And now they're saying our campus isn't safe enough that we need hybrid learning, as they're saying. Do you pay the full boat? Is there any recourse here for students and parents?
I'm going to ask Scott, because I think you and I had the conversation about something similar 6 months ago about whether or not there was an implied contract, and I think there probably is here, right? Yeah. I mean, you got to think there's a valid cause of action against the school if they really have failed to provide safe. If there was a rash of violence on the campus and the university did nothing, if there was a serial rapist on campus,
or even a threat of violence,
you could sue, and I don't mind having that case.
Yeah, but this part is what I don't understand. They're peaceful. There can be peaceful protests. There can be civil disobedience. But what's happening at Columbia and a few other colleges, I still don't understand the policy as to how the protesters are there and not being removed. Now, the police removed several, about 130 in New York, but I don't know if they're back now, New York University. But at Columbia and others, I know the president of the university is under fire, but there's got to be a reason why security hasn't removed them. There's got to be something else going on there. And I don't know what it is, but yes, lawsuit is possible.
What about what we heard from Mayor Adams? A lot of those tents look alike, Kurt.
Yeah, they sure do. I don't think
that's coincidental.
It's not. I mean, clearly.
How do you go down the track of figuring out who's behind what here?
Well, I think that's going to be challenging in these circumstances to really do that, and that can also turn into a bit of a PR nightmare if you're looking at students and people and how they're organizing and exercising their right to assemble and voice protests. Like, some of these things are constitutionally protected, and so there's a very thin line here that you got to be careful to walk. But on the flip side, these universities, their leadership, they need to take control of their school. I mean, what we are seeing here is a massive failure of leadership.
Massive.
Period.
I mean, they are not opening up the school, Nan,
right, because
of all that is going on. This is down the street from where you live.
Yes, not far at all. It is I would assume, and there must be some sort of contractual implications here as well, that the school must provide for the safety of its students. It's a private institution. Right. It has every right to call in law enforcement. The claim was made, they can't call in law enforcement there. Yes, they can. Of course they can. Right. Say, help us. We have a disruption on campus. We have Jewish students leaving. Not just remote learning, they're leaving. That is basically a complete abrogation.
The rabbi's saying it's not safe. Go back, go home.
Hesitation.
Exactly.
I sit on the board of trustees for Morehouse College. I can tell you the hesitation from the administration to do that is because that could make things worse. If you
Memories
call
of
in
Kent State.
vis-a-vis Kent State or some other awful violence occurred between the students and the police. But I do want to get to these outside agitators and the organizers, because I listened to an interview on another cable show this morning with a
on NewsNation.
Yes,
there we go.
NewsNation.
All right.
It was me and
Just wanted to clarify that.
Me and Chris Hahn.
Or NewsNation subsidiary. But the student was indicating that the protest, there are protest organizers who are not part of the student body, and they are organizing outside of the four walls of New York or Columbia, and there was this discussion about that, which is crazy.
That's why I think the comment from Mayor Adams there is so poignant. Mike Johnson, real quick.
Yes and no, but on the mayor and on the governor, there's been a lot of talk, but not much action. I mean, yesterday,
Ask Congress about that.
Adams is on TV saying there's no room for hate. Yeah, there is. It's right there. Okay? Now he's up there saying, well, why are all these tents the same? They must be outside organizing. That's a great insight.
Yeah.
When are they actually going to do something about it? I get what you were saying about the university leadership, and that's fine, but where's the National Guard?
Real quick, Mike Johnson.
Yeah, I think
the House Speaker going to Columbia University tomorrow.
Kudos to him. I hope that he goes with a bipartisan group, and they take the Israeli flag and they march right through the center of the campus and see what happens.
Okay, so here's what we wanted to do, and this is one of the reasons why we hope you trust us here on the Hill. We want to hear from Democrats. We want to hear from Republicans, and that's exactly what we are going to do right now. Hear from both sides of the aisle. Come on in. From the state of New York, member of Congress, Congressman Anthony D'Esposito. His district, I believe you're out on Long Island, Congressman. Either way, not too far from Columbia University. Thanks for being back with us here. Appreciate the time from you, sir, as always. You are calling, yes, of course, you are calling on the president of Columbia to step down. Why?
I am. I think it's what you guys have been talking about. She has a job to do, and she's failing the students at Columbia University by not being able to keep them safe. I mean, the answer is not to go remote and go home. That is not the answer for, one of the most famous educational institutions in the world, an Ivy League school. You're telling kids and students that you can't hold up your side of the bargain, so head home and learn over the internet. It's absolutely ridiculous, and quite frankly, it's giving in to the hate-filled speech and rhetoric that has taken over that campus. I was there yesterday. I'll be joining Speaker Johnson tomorrow.
No, go finish your thought, sorry.
Yeah, I'll be joining Speaker Johnson tomorrow, and I think it's important that we send a clear and concise message that even though the loudest voices being heard in New York City right now are the ones that are pro-Hamas, are pro-Hezbollah, are pro-Palestinian, and anti-Israel, there are still elected officials on both sides of the aisle that support Israel, that stand with those students, and want to keep them safe.
I hear you on the message, Congressman, but you are a member of Congress. Congress passes laws. Is there anything that you can do or that you are planning to do on this front?
Well, I think we've taken steps in that direction. I mean, we have legislation that I've co-sponsored. It's bipartisan. It was the sponsor of the bill is Mike Lawler from New York. That talks about, it's about holding them accountable and hitting them in the pocket, which would take any federal funding away, would even take student aid away from those who are promoting anti-Semitic hate on college campuses. Listen, this is not by accident, and Mayor Adams is correct. This is organized. You don't need to be a highly decorated New York City detective to walk into that quad and see that this is organized. You have, like you mentioned, students outside.
Would you go after the endowments?
I absolutely would, and I think we're seeing that already. Not only should they go after the endowments, but we're going to see big donors of these colleges and universities that are no longer going to donate money because they're sick and tired of seeing what's going on. And the president of the university needs to resign immediately. She's failing her duty as president of that college.
Congressman Anthony D'Esposito from the state of New York, Republican. Thank you, sir, for your time. We will talk to you again soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. Okay, so the congressman there, Republican from New York. Come on in now, the Democrat from North Carolina, Kathy Manning. She was one of 4 Democrats to walk through the encampment on Columbia University earlier this week. Congresswoman, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were also the former head of the Jewish Federations of America. It is nice to have you in and have you back here on the Hill. I'm wondering, What you heard there from your colleague on the other side of the aisle, what you make of it, and is there anything you take exception to?
Well, let me just say I would agree with him that the protests are out of control. The chants that I heard, the presence of outside agitators is very problematic. And we heard from Jewish students that they are afraid to go on campus. We heard from students who are trying to study for their final exams in the library that the chants have been so loud and so consistent they can't study for their final exams. And we saw as we walked onto the campus, risers are being put up for graduation. What is going to happen at that graduation? These poor kids who 4 years ago didn't have normal high school graduations because of COVID are now going to be denied normal college graduations. And I think it's terrible. I think what's happening to the Jewish students and frankly all the students is terrible. The university has new protest laws in place, protest rules in place, and the president needs to enforce those rules immediately.
But does that go far enough, Congresswoman? Does that go far enough? Because here's one of your colleagues, a Democrat from that area, Richie Torres. He said this. He says, quote, "The cancellation of in-person classes at Columbia is an admission of failure by the president, who has chosen to surrender control of Columbia to an anti-Semitic fringe. If you cannot ensure the safety of your student, then you have no business serving as the president of any university, let alone the alma mater of Alexander Hamilton." He's going as far as the Republican from New York saying resign. Is that where your party is right now or not yet?
Richie Torres is a close friend, and I have to say I agree with Richie. I think that resigning herself and saying that she's going to cancel in-person classes is very problematic. And I think she needs to get in control of that campus immediately. I don't think that I'm not sure a resignation at this point is going to solve the problem. I think that those who are in charge need to take steps immediately to solve this problem. And bringing in a new president could potentially cause more chaos at this point.
Here was President Biden just yesterday. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
Is he trying to both sides it, Congresswoman, here in an election year?
Well, let me just say I agree with him that more needs to be done to eradicate these anti-Semitic threats, the discrimination, the hostile atmosphere. And let me tell you one thing that I think we could be doing, and I hope the Speaker will consider. I have a bipartisan bill that I introduced a week ago. The same bill has been introduced in the Senate with the exact same language. It's much broader than the bill that my colleague mentioned a few minutes ago on the show. This bill would appoint a special official in the Department of Education, advise the secretary. That's the bill that will get things done across our government.
Congresswoman Kathy Manning, nice to have you on back here on the Hill. Talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a good one. So there you have it. A Republican and a Democrat. You hear both of their stances there. Mick, as I was playing as the soundbite was playing of President Biden, you were shaking your head. Why?
Yeah, that's not going to age well. I want to know what the program is. When you ask a politician, does he condemn anti-Semitism? He goes, I condemn anti-Semitism, which is why I created a program. What program has he put in place? I haven't seen anything. I mean, I haven't even talked about it.
He's pushing for the war to be resolved. He's pushing.
Does that solve my mind?
Of course he is.
Okay.
And that's super important. You've served the president before.
That's just
not the best answer to the question.
No.
But it is his.
Hold on, let me hit the pause button there.
But it is his. There are good people on both sides moment.
Okay. So you have served a president before. We'll get to that in a second. Here's Donald Trump today.
What's going on at the college level and the colleges, Columbia, NYU, and others, is a disgrace. And it's really on Biden. He has the wrong signal. He's got the wrong tone. He's got the wrong words.
You take exception to what he says there?
Well, I agree with the first part. What's going on right now is a disgrace. I have no problem with that. I think that it's laughable for someone who reacted to something like Charlottesville as, well, you have the wrong words, to be now calling out President Biden. I'm like, come on. You've done if this is Joe Biden's verifying people, no, this is the guy who was the architect of that quote, so I don't know where he gets off pointing that judgment. I got to say, I just want to say one thing. Hold on.
Hold on 1 second.
Let me finish 1 second, please.
I will.
The one thing that drives me nuts from the last two lawmakers that we had, the phrase I hate the most is, I have co-sponsored a bill. Let me tell you something.
I have a program.
That doesn't mean anything to anybody at all. That will never do anything to solve any problem that we have ever. That is the worst answer.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I just wanted to offer this thought. It was verbally inept by both presidents at those moments. And that should be taken as, however you want to derive implications from it. In President Trump's case, he was not trying to praise racists. I don't think that President Biden is necessarily trying to praise. I don't think he's trying to praise Hamas. But President Biden is in a very delicate political situation. That much he knows. He's trying to win Michigan.
All right. Still to come here on the Hill over the next 45 minutes or so. You know the Clear Travel program? That's the one that you pay to fast-track airport security. There was a debate in one state house today about whether or not that should be allowed. The lawmaker behind that push is joining us live about why his state is trying to make this move. Plus, hot mic with Mick, sir. You're talking about?
You know, you do this every time.
You don't remember, huh?
It depends, because we've got 4 things. We might only have time for 2.
Blockchain
and
RFK.
GOP isolationists, RFK, who knows? We're going to make most of it up between now and the segment.
We won't make it up, but we'll get mixed thoughts on a few things going on. And on the other side of the break, Jesse Weber joins us, by the way, the latest in that case right there. And I'll tell you this much. These folks here are fired up about another thing that happened today with the FTC and the legal implications of all that. Jesse will break that down, too. Stay with us. You're watching The Hill.
I'm sitting here, sitting up as straight as I can all day long, because you know what? It's a very unfair situation.
All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. It was another busy day in court for former President Trump, starting out with a hearing on a gag order, which prosecutors contend Trump has violated 10 times. Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor, host of on the Law and Crime Network. Come on in. Jesse, great to see you. So Donald Trump earlier today and the gag order, explain to me what happened in this hearing and what's at stake for the former president.
Well, what's at stake is he going to be held in contempt of court, and what does contempt of court mean, right? So prosecutors, let's be clear, are not saying that when he violated the gag order, in their opinion, by going after witnesses, which he's not supposed to do, going after Michael Cohen or Stormy Daniels, they're saying that he should be fined, a fine of $1,000 per violation. That would be $10,000. Now, the counter argument is the defense said he was merely responding to attacks on him. The problem is when the judge asked the defense, okay, give me examples of things that Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen said. Mr. Blanche, who represents Donald Trump, really didn't give the goods. And the Judge Merchan got really, really aggravated by that and said, you're losing all credibility with the court. Not a great thing that you want to hear. Now, I don't think this is going to end up with Donald Trump, sitting in custody, sitting behind bars as we wait for the trial. But it's not great to be violating the court's orders.
So you know him, Mick. Does he care about getting fined $1,000 a pop?
No, he does care about going to jail. And he and I have actually talked in a different circumstance during the first impeachment when I sat down and we talked. I said, look, they've got nothing on you. You're never going to get impeached. But what they're hoping you do is screw up during the process. And that while they've got nothing on you now, they get something on you as part of the process. They were accusing him of witness tampering at the time, or witness interference and so forth. And I think that's what the prosecution is hoping for here, is that he makes a mistake not 6 months ago or 6 years ago, but now, and that's how they get him. And
well, we got another 4 to 6 weeks to go. Sit tight, because I got to tell you, when Stormy Daniels gets on the witness stand with Michael Cohen, I don't see Trump as being able to be in control of his emotions given this issue. But I will say this. I think what's really interesting is that the court did not rule today, Blake. And that's interesting because he could have, but he can also rule any time during the trial or at the conclusion of the trial.
Hang it over their heads.
And for my question for Jesse is, were you surprised that we didn't get a quicker ruling? I know we're not in court today, or tomorrow rather, I think, but were you surprised we didn't get a ruling today?
No. Look, a judge will always take some time before they come with a decision. A decision as monumental as this, and I don't think he wants to look like he's playing politics. I'll add one thing to this. Unlikely, but something I have to throw out. put aside the violations, put aside what the contempt is. The more that he agitates the court, I do wonder if Trump is convicted of this, could it hurt him at sentencing? I'm not saying that'll happen, but I'm wondering if that's something that would factor into Judge Merchan's decision.
Well,
all right.
Well, I certainly wouldn't be testing that theory if I were Donald Trump sitting here, because you and I have both been in court before, federal and state court, and you know it's not personal, it's just business. But listen, I'm going to be sentencing somebody. I surely wouldn't want to upset the decision maker.
No. I agree with you there.
What you got?
Jesse, it's Mick Mulvaney, and I asked Scott as well. Were you a little surprised at how hard the judge pushed back against the Trump lawyer this early in the trial to say you're losing all credibility, you've lost all credibility? I've seen that before, but usually it's after 4 or 5 rather repeated difficulties that they have. Were you surprised to see that this early in the process?
Well, it's not great. I will tell you, it's not in front of the jury. Let's be clear about that, right? So the jury didn't see any of this, and hopefully they're not reading about any of this. But it was at the moment when the judge kept repeatedly asking Todd Blanche for evidence. Show me your argument. Show me case law. Defend yourself. And he really didn't have it. And that felt a little bit like when your teacher's asking you if you did the homework, and you're like, I don't know. And so I think that was a problem. But I'm sure this is not the last we're going to see of it.
All right, Jesse, stand by here because I want to get your thoughts on this. As the Republican nominee for president dealt with court today, the Democratic nominee touted a major announcement. The Federal Trade Commission voting today to ban most non-compete agreements. The Biden administration says this impacts roughly 30 million American employees whose work agreement includes non-compete clauses. Is this going right to court?
I imagine pro-business employers are definitely taking this to court, and they will make the arguments that, look, A, did the FTC have the authority to do this? Did Congress ever give them the ability to do this? B, is this just an expansive reading of the FTC Act, which, as you says, you can't engage in unfair competition? There's a number of legal challenges they can make. The FTC would say, well, listen, there's other ways that employers can be competitive. There's NDAs, there's confidentiality agreements, but they're of the opinion that this was stifling people from having the opportunity to go to other jobs.
The administration says this impacts tens of millions. To be clear, this is the FTC and the Biden administration in an election year. Is this just good old-fashioned politics?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to sell the message that, hey, President Biden wants you to be able to work wherever you want, whenever you want. Go defend the other side of that. Good luck.
Does he want a lawsuit on this, right?
I'd be happy to defend the other side. Go ahead.
I'm just going to offer one thing. The state of California, home of tech, entertainment, defense industry, does not allow non-competes. And somehow corporations are very happy to be headquartered there. So go ahead, Scott, answer that.
As a former head of the D.C. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is certainly going to file a lawsuit. Because here's the problem. It's not about, you can put time, place, and manner restrictions on these non-competes, but can you regulate what the employee has learned, the IP, the strategy, and go to a competitor, and that competitor is going to be made better because of his new employee that he got and learned from his prior employer.
Hey, then keep your employees
happy. That's got to be regulated. Happy or not.
Right.
Happy or not.
Okay. All right, Jesse,
it's a danger.
You know something, when Nan and I are closer on the same side than Scott's now.
Well, I'm a business Democrat, and I got to tell you.
Jesse, I got to say goodbye to you here. Jesse, thanks so much. I'm sure we'll catch you later in the week. Jesse Weber. Good to see you guys. Thanks so much. Thank you, sir. Yeah, still much more ahead here on the Hill. Coming up, TikTok, the very latest there, as we're getting closer to TikTok potentially being outlawed, banned, maybe a forced sale. What happened up on the Hill today with that and where all of this is heading politically, and a debate today out west about Clear. It's the security fast track some pay for in airports all across the country. One state now could essentially get rid of it. So who's pushing for this change? They're joining us on the other side of the break. Is your Clear about to go away? You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation. Live look right now, Capitol Hill, where the Senate is getting closer to passing the $95 billion bill in foreign aid, along with a bill that would force a sale of TikTok.
Let us not delay this. Let us not prolong this. Let us not keep our friends around the world waiting for a moment longer.
Now, it is believed that roughly half the country, somewhere around there, is on TikTok. Donald Trump, who wants vouched for a ban of TikTok while he was president of the United States, is now trying to blame President Biden. Trump on Truth Social saying, quote, "Just so everyone knows, especially the young people, crooked Joe Biden is responsible for banning TikTok." All right, so he's been all over the place on this, Mick.
All I know is that
what about that strategy, though? Because I was wrong.
Everybody who says that Donald Trump is sleepy and bored in trial needs to watch that clip
right there
of Chuck Schumer. Oh my goodness gracious!
So I sat up here and said there is no way they are going to ban TikTok in an election year. I guess I'm technically kind of right on that because it's not a ban, it's a forced sale.
Biden has to sign it, too. But keep in mind, Donald Trump is not the first politician to think that voters have a really, really short memory. That's every politician in Washington, D.C. We can walk through every single elected official. I can show you at least one time when they took both sides of an issue. It happens every single day in this town.
What about that strategy, though? I'll start with you. Yeah.
Kurt's nodding his head.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Mick's right. People listen, especially nowadays where we get bombarded with all kinds of stuff all day long. Nobody remembers what anybody said 6 months ago, nevertheless, a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. It's very easy to change your position.
Especially when you're as big a liar as Donald Trump. He is a huge liar. I can't keep up with all of his lies, so who knows what the truth is.
But what about this? So is Biden for or against the tariffs before he was for or against the tariffs on China?
He was both.
Oh, there we go.
What about this strategy, though? Because Joe Biden needs young people to win the election.
Yes.
You need every vote to win the election, but Democrats, in this case Joe Biden,
especially rely
need
on young people.
Right.
Yes. There are reasons for that.
Half the country and an overwhelming majority, I would think, of younger people are on TikTok.
Absolutely.
TikTok. So what about Trump saying, blame that guy?
Yeah.
Don't blame me. He's the one who's going to sign it. Blame him.
Well, there you go. Well, it's politically expedient, and President Trump is a resourceful political figure, so I don't blame him for that. And I think signing a TikTok ban will further enrage young people who are already, according to polling, ill-disposed to President Biden.
In fairness to both sides, it's not a ban. It's going to be a forced sale.
Forced sale
but if they don't sell, then it becomes banned.
But it will sell. It's got value.
I don't think that by the time the election rolls around, TikTok will not be functioning in the United States no matter what happens.
It'll be
so as long as that's the case, this isn't going to matter.
And young people aren't supporting Donald Trump, so when he's talking to them, I don't think his base is growing because of young people leaving Biden and going to Trump. They may not be supporting Biden or may not like Biden, but they're not going to Trump.
I also think that the Biden campaign thinks that as the campaign really progresses when we get into the fall, Donald Trump will say and do enough things that will incite the youth vote to come back home to the Biden team. I think that's what they're thinking.
And we have decisions in the criminal case. We've got decisions in the civil case vis-a-vis the civil appeals, which is tying up a lot of his money right now. So there's a lot of action between now and November.
It's really a model of what a democracy should have.
My welfare is?
Lawfare.
I'm going to switch seats. I'll switch seats with her tomorrow night. So,
All right, still to come here from the Hill on News Nation. Hot Mic with Mick. Have you figured out yet what you're talking about?
No clue. None whatsoever.
RFK Jr. and blockchain.
Blockchain.
Why is Donald Trump standing behind Mike Johnson?
We can do that.
You think the Wall Street Journal wrote something really not nice about Republicans?
And I'm probably right.
Mulvaney, other side of the break. Stay with us. You're watching The Hill.
It's must-see TV.
News Nation tonight. A mysterious photo and another shocking letter sent straight from the happy-faced killer to News Nation's Ashley Banfield. Ashley reads the letter live, and you won't believe what he's claiming. Banfield tonight, 10/9 Central, only on News Nation.
That, as you might know, is the service that allows travelers for $189 a year to bypass some of the lines at airports. It makes screening essentially a faster experience. Now, lawmakers in the state of California are now debating whether to scrap the program entirely throughout the Golden State. State Senator Josh Newman authored a bill that could lead to a ban of third-party vendors, like Clear, unless they get their own security lane. And the state senator joins us live. Thanks for being with us here on the Hill on News Nation, sir. You were taking this up in the State Assembly House, I believe, today. Why did you want to go through with this? Yeah, but why do you want to do this? Why do you think this is worth your time?
Well, so I, like so many others, fly a little bit in California, and if you fly, ever since 9/11, we made flying really challenging. A lot of that is unavoidable. And one of the things that the Transportation Security Administration did was they partnered with companies like Clear. Clear is the only one left, and Clear runs basically, an expedited service that allows Clear customers to bypass the line. And the basis for that was that it would enhance security, it would enhance efficiency, and it turns out it actually does neither. So, except for the people who benefit from being subscribers, others are inconvenienced, even as the system is neither more secure nor efficient in total. So the idea here was, if Clear had their own line, they could run their business without inconveniencing or otherwise interfering with the traveling public. And their first response, well, we can't do that because it's governed by the federal government through TSA. So my bill is simply an attempt to give Clear and its airport partners a little bit of motivation to work with TSA to figure out a better basis and separate those two lines so their customers can do expedited screening and go on their way, and that the regular traveler won't suffer, kind of the indignity and annoyance of continually being shunted aside for a Clear subscriber.
The airlines, though, are against this, sir. They say, on behalf of our California customers and frequent flyers, we are writing in opposition of the bill, which not only threatens to increase fees on air carriers, but also severely restricts airports' ability to effectively manage lines at the security checkpoint, resulting in a negative travel experience for our customers. What would you say to them?
I would say that none of that is actually true. So Delta is one of those airlines. Delta actually has an investment in Clear, right? So their interest isn't just safety, it's also profitability. But Delta, as an example, has its own service that they recently launched at LAX, where they have their own dedicated line. And if you're a Delta One, customer, you're traveling on a premium ticket, you could bypass the regular TSA completely. Delta is not only staffing that, they're paying TSA agents to staff that. So they could do that. It might, Clear might make a little bit less money, but I think everybody would benefit.
If you had your way, would you want Clear gone?
No, and this is the thing that I think has been represented. It's actually not true. I don't want to ban Clear at all. What I want to do is provide sufficient motivation to separate these two lines. And I would argue, as I will later this afternoon when I present the bill, that that's actually in Clear's best interest. I think there's a lot of prospective Clear customers like me that might use an expedited service like that, but I'm not going to do it if I have to continually cut in front of somebody else who's mad at me as I do it. And so if Clear could do that, I would argue they'd have a much better business.
All right, we got to leave it there. State Senator Josh Newman from the state of California. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Here is Clear's statement. They say they have been leading the way on identity verification technology for 14 years. We're always working with our airline and airport partners, as well as state, local, federal governments, to ensure all travelers have a safer, easier checkpoint experience. Is this a good idea, bad idea?
It's a terrible idea, especially for the state that is housing LAX. I'd be really curious to actually know if Governor Newsom's taken a position on this, if anyone thinks this bill is going to move forward, what he thinks about this.
It's not clear that the state legislature has the jurisdiction to interfere with a federal government contract that is issued by FAA. That's the first thing. Second of all, the idea that people pay $200 or more, they're not cutting the line, they're not bypassing TSA. I have a Clear pass, and there's a line for Clear customers too.
Yes.
And you put your ID in, and you've had a background check, and then you still have to just show your ticket or ID to TSA. And
it's bio ID. You actually have
biometrics.
To biometric.
And so you don't necessarily go ahead, but okay, you go ahead, but that takes seconds. There's not like, listen, if you don't have Clear, then people like me are going to get in line at TSA, and it's going to be longer lines. It's just a practical issue.
That's one of the things I want to ask him. You flew how many times last year?
147.
147 days out of the year. Thoughts on Clear?
I was actually surprised when we got this story the first time, and then I read why they were trying to ban it. I was always under the impression the difficulty with Clear was that they had security issues. I think it was back the summer before last. The TSA had caught them, dropping the ball a couple of times on some of the testing. So I'm not sure if this is the right battle that anybody.
Don't mess with my Clear.
Don't mess with your Clear. There you go. If California does this, though, you got to wonder how many other states across the country might do it too. By the way, it is bipartisan out there as well. All right, the presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is facing some backlash now from several of the nation's top environmental advocacy groups for his claims that he will do more for the environment, quote, than any president in American history. But check out the photos he just posted on X. He did so in honor of Earth Day. Around the table we go. RFK Jr. When you look at these images, what do you see, Kurt?
A delusional, narcissistic whack job.
Tell us how you really feel.
Really? I was going to say that.
What do you?
I don't know. I mean, I see. There's got to be a conspiracy behind it, and there's got to be. And the other thing is this: he's probably not going to take a COVID test out there in all those woods.
By the way, the picture that you see that he's standing, not that one, but the other one. He's holding a frog in his hand, I believe. What are you seeing, Ann?
He has a falcon on his desk.
RFK.
And he is a falconer. But, well, look, he has been very active in environmentalist causes for decades, whether or not you agree with what he's done. And I don't agree with everything he's done. But the genesis of this opposition by environmentalist groups, so-called groups, is that they don't want him to mess with the Democrats' victory agenda, and they see him as a threat to Joe Biden. That's it, 100%.
Okay. What do you see, Mick?
I thought they used to love this guy. I mean, that's what I that's
love
what
his family.
No. I thought they used to love this guy. This guy, the left loved this guy back before he was running against Joe Biden. That, and he's the Kennedys are just, I'm so pathetically jealous because I've got the same genetic background they do. They are much better looking than I am. It's really disappointing.
And with that, it is now time for Hot Mic with Mick.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, Mick. All right.
What are we talking about?
RFK Jr.
Okay, all right.
He's been a long-time advocate of cryptocurrency, but now he's going a step further. He is saying that if elected, he would put the entire budget on blockchain. You started the blockchain caucus in Congress. You were the budget director.
Love it. Great idea. Never, ever, ever going to happen. Look, he's doing it in terms of saying it's going to be transparent. Of course, that assumes that folks like us know how to use blockchain, which, of course, we don't. But certainly there would be agencies that could or groups that could. So could it bring some transparency? Yes. Is it a good idea? Probably yes. There are portions of our government that are still using 3x5 cards to keep data. There's portions of our government that are
like note cards?
Yes, note cards. There's portions of our government that are still using the floppy disks that I think are 8 inches, okay, from like the 1970s. So we're not going straight from that to blockchain.
Where the heck is all that money going?
Yeah.
You think it's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea, yes.
Okay.
And I'd love to see it happen, and I think we should be talking about it.
Okay. You figure blockchain's the future at some point, whether it's the future for the federal government.
Oh, no, we can't. We cannot go a show on the Hill without talking about blockchain and crypto.
I didn't make you talk about Bitcoin halving day, but we'll move on. It looks like Mike Johnson still has a friend, by the way, in Donald Trump. The former president is standing behind the Speaker of the House, saying that, quote, you can't really get too tough with this slim of a majority. What's this all about? Donald Trump backing Mike Johnson.
A couple different things. First of all, it doesn't help Trump to have even more Republican sort of dysfunction on the Hill. Again, there's 2 stories out there right now. It's Trump and Biden. And he wants to be at the top of that hill, and he is right now. If the Republicans end up trying to get rid of Michael Johnson, that goes straight to the top of the media list, and Trump gets booted down. It's one of the reasons that Johnson went to Mar-a-Lago last week. But there is a policy consideration here, which is that the bill actually did incorporate Trump's idea of a loan. Now,
right,
it's not a perfect loan. It's a forgivable loan, but it's sort of a half a step in Trump's direction.
Nobody here actually thinks that Republicans are going to bounce Mike Johnson.
No.
I never bet against Republicans' ability to hit the self-detonation button.
They'll try everything the wrong way before they get it right.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt it. It only takes one of them, and we got 14 or 17 of them. So
I think if MTG is holding back, though, I think that's a sign that, yes, I'm sorry, Marjorie Taylor.
If you're banking everything on MTG showing restraint. I don't know.
But
the Democrats?
I think folks may have been able to persuade her that this won't get the result you want.
You are now in the coalition government. You are in coalition government, and the Democrats would come to Michael Johnson.
MTG known for
by the way,
reason.
The Wall Street Journal out with a new editorial taking aim at the 14 Republicans who voted no on all 4 foreign aid bills over the weekend, comparing them to isolationist Republicans of the 1930s. You think that's
this one's really unfair,
wrong.
and there's a lot of folks in the Wall Street Journal editorial that I don't care for personally as lawmakers. But this is not.
You want to name names? No.
Gates. Anyway, but it's not fair because all you had to do is go look at these folks' Twitter feed. They weren't voting. Some of them are isolationists. Sure, that's fine. But there's folks there who were upset that there was no action on the border, and they promised their voters that they would not do anything for foreign aid until they did something for the border. They're keeping that promise. There's some folks on there, Thomas Massey, for example, a true fiscal conservative, whose point is this. Scott Perry, I think, is in the same boat. Who said, look, this is borrowed money. I'd vote for this if we found a way to pay for it by reducing spending someplace else. But it doesn't take. It's not an act of heroism to vote to borrow money in this particular circumstances. So I really got a problem with the Wall Street Journal about this. It's not fair. And by the way, you can start the clock now. It's going to be 65 days before the Wall Street Journal writes another editorial that decries deficit spending. And here they are. That's exactly what they're encouraging right now.
By the way, it is primary day in the state of Pennsylvania, which could end up being the state that decides the presidential election. That means they are voting today in Penn Hills, which is located in Allegheny County. That town is represented by the Democratic Congressman Chris Deluzio. In the last presidential election, President Biden won Allegheny County with 60% of the vote share there. From our hill to yours, a big hello to our viewers watching us on News Nation and listening to us on Sirius XM in the Penn Hills area. On the other side of the break, coming up still with us, here from the Hill, Tesla. Is it in trouble? Elon Musk speaking today about the future of the automaker. What did he say? Leland Vitter joins us on the other side of the break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back here to the Hill on News Nation. It's been a bit of a rough ride for Tesla recently, the automaker announcing a 10% layoff worldwide. And today the company reported its first quarter earnings. Revenue for the electric vehicle maker down 9% year over year. But Elon Musk says he still believes EVs will dominate the market.
The EV adoption rate globally is under pressure, and a lot of other auto manufacturers are pulling back on EVs and pursuing plug-in hybrids instead. We believe this is not the right strategy, and electric vehicles will ultimately dominate the market.
Leland Vitter, host of On Balance. Hello, hello. Under pressure, pulling back, that's one way to describe the EV market right now.
The problem for Tesla is that everybody who has Teslas and everybody who wants Teslas already has them.
There's an inventory glut.
There's a ceiling, right? And we've reached that. And until you break through in terms of range, cost, usability, they don't catch fire in floods. You're able to use them in cold weather. These minor issues.
They're minor things.
Right. Until you break through that, it's going to be a problem.